Zach Elliott at Feel Free to Argue, and I want to spend some time today talking about Egypt. Um, certainly, a lot has been going on there, and it's been fascinating to watch. It's been really, really cool to see the Egyptians trying to take control of their own future, control of their country, turn into a democracy. And the fact that this has been all done peacefully so far, um, largely peacefully, um, amazes me that much more. I think it's been an amazing thing to watch, and certainly it must be an amazing experience for the people of Egypt. But I do have some concerns. And a lot of them come from the fact that Mubarak has become such a potent symbol. I become concerned about that because as a symbol, a lot of the people in the square, and I mean you can tell just by looking at the footage, the exuberance, I think, is out of proportion with the amount of the real problem that is actually removed by the removal of Mubarak. I think a lot of the structures that made Mubarak are still there. And let us not forget for a moment that when he turned power over, he didn't do it to any kind of civilian authority. He did it to the military. The vice president in charge of the country is a general. All of the ministers in the cabinet, practically, all the relevant ones, are generals. They've all enriched themselves enormously, mostly via the program of neoliberalization and the standard plunder originating from the top that entails. Because of that, these people have a strong interest, strong monetary interest, a strong power over society interest in trying to keep things the way they are. When you have statements from Suleiman in just the past week talking about how, well, he didn't think there was any need for Mubarak to step down, and he didn't think there was any need to lift the 30-year-old state of emergency. For these and there are lots of other problems with Suleiman. I'm very concerned that this guy is basically at the top of the pile right now. The things you need to know about Suleiman is that he is both Israel and the United States' preferred candidate to be in charge of Egypt. This is really clear. I mean, I think they pretty sure both governments have made overt statements to that effect, but certainly all of the chatter on back channels has been saying this. He is the person they want. He's been extraordinarily cooperative with us in the war on terror. He was the go-to guy for the CIA in terms of the extraordinary rendition program, where Egypt was the destination of choice if you really wanted someone to get the crap beat out of them. So this is the guy who is coming out on top right now in Egypt, and I think it's very important not to have any illusions about him. He is somebody who is, every person who made Mubarak, they want Suleiman to take over. You know, Mubarak wanted him to take over. Israel wants him to take over. The United States wants him to take over. So, considering that, you know, he was essentially Mubarak's right-hand man for a long time and was in charge of their secret police force, I'm not sure how much of an advantage this is to have Suleiman coming to power now. And I've seen more than one commentator saying that Suleiman is not the person that you should expect an orderly transition to democracy from. So, given that, my concern is that people have so much invested in the symbol of Mubarak as being emblematic of this regime that they will drop their attention when the details are being hammered out. And all the important things that made him the dictator that he was, those are going to remain in place. You're going to have the cozy, nepotistic, arrangements. You're going to have the appointments. You're going to have the sham elections. You're going to have the constitution that outlaws opposition parties. And you're going to have the continuation of the state of emergency, which there still has been no indication that is going to be removed. And without that, you just have no real semblance of civil society, because you just can't have a civil society under a state of an emergency with a paranoid and exploitive government. It's just, you can't have it. Those things don't go together. So, while I feel terrific for the Egyptians, and I have nothing but praise and admiration for the way that they've conducted themselves in this, no other word for beautiful revolution, I still feel that I need to caution them to keep their eyes on the real prize. And the real prize has very little to do with Hosni Mubarak. Very little to do. It has everything to do with winning the negotiations that are coming up and making sure that at the end of the day, the Egyptian people can look at their government, can look at their constitution, can look at the rules of the game as they exist in Egypt and say, that's fair, I feel represented, I feel that I can trust these institutions. And I just want to make sure that a year from now we're showing the footage from the happy celebrations and wondering what happened. Why Egypt at that future point seems very much like Egypt right before, this all started happening. And I hope that's not the case. I hope so much that it's not the case, because as another commentator I saw this morning said, the whole Arab world is watching. And I would guess that it's going even quite a bit farther than that. I think oppressed people everywhere are watching Egypt. And I don't want them to lose the peace. I don't want them to think they have a solution when they don't. I want it to be a real solution. I want Egyptians to be holding their heads as high a year from now, 10 years from now, 25 years from now, as they are today. I want them to be just as proud, just as happy, just as satisfied. And that's going to mean some real nastiness, I think, in the coming weeks. Because I think my prediction is that they're going to let them have the party over the weekend. There's going to be nothing done to shut down Tahrir Square over the course of the next day or two. But then there's going to become increasingly serious statements from the government that people are to disperse, people are to go back to their lives, people are to return to business as normal. And if that doesn't happen, then I think things are likely to get extremely interesting and very real. But I do not predict that this will be a smooth, easy, comfortable transition. I agree with the people who think Suleiman is not the man to do that. And so, at some point, I think there's going to be an ugly confrontation. I don't think this is going to be able to stay peaceful and beautiful the way it is. I think at some point they're going to have to pay in blood for the real progress that they want, or they're not going to get it. And that is my unfortunate assessment, and I hate to say that when I should be doing nothing but saying, good for you, Egypt. But the time that's coming now, the time that is coming right on the heels now, where all this stuff is going to be hammered out as far from like the public view as humanly possible, this is the time where everyone has to pay extra special attention. Everyone has to be that much more on their guard, that much more aware of what the potential problems in the situation are. Because a regime is not a man. It's not. It's a whole system. And if you don't take down the system, the man won't. You'll see the man didn't really matter that much. So, Zach Elliott, I'm sorry to be a bummer, people. But by all means, feel free to argue. I mean, if you think I'm out of bounds, if you think that I'm being too worried about it, give me your reasons. Tell me why you think we don't need to be concerned. But, well, tell me whatever. It's about dialogue. Talk to me. Zach Elliott, feel free to argue.